Let me take you back to 2007. WoW zones look like this, and this. It is Burning Crusade launch day, and you go through the Dark Portal for the first time. Holy sh**. In this video, I am going to be exploring Hellfire Peninsula and taking a look at the details that makes this place legitimately ahead of its time, and really upped their game when it came to making zones in the Burning Crusade. However, I think Hellfire Peninsula takes the cake, and hopefully this video will give you an appreciation of just how ahead of the curve Blizzard really were during this period of time. Now, one of the first interesting things that you see in Hellfire Peninsula is this really dramatic battle that is occurring, where the Horde and Alliance are teaming up together to fight this invading force of demons. Now, this is just really beautiful to look at. Like, even this screen cap legitimately looks like painted artwork that you would see on a hardcore metal band. It really does look that good. There is also this giant pit lord that is calling down meteors and summoning demons, and yeah, it's just really memorable. Even though this is mostly just an illusion, it really does give you the feeling that there is this ongoing battle outside of the Dark Portal. One of the biggest changes in design philosophy for WoW zones in the Burning Crusade was that there's much more of an emphasis on 3D design. Obviously, with flying mounts being a thing, there is more verticality to zones. In Hellfire Peninsula, you get a pretty good demonstration of that, where there are a bunch of these floating rocks that you can go upon and even get an amazing view of the zone that you're in. I just think the Dark Portal from this high up looks so amazing. Like, this might even be the thumbnail. Obviously in this footage I'm flying around, and I think that kind of takes away a bit from people's first impressions. Remember, when people went through the Dark Portal for the first time, they were on ground mounts. Everything seemed even bigger than what it seems like on footage here, just from the different perspective. One of the coolest details that you may not have known about is that the Path of Glory is actually just skeletons of Draenei. Like, if you look closely at the floor texture, it is all skeletons. This massive path that you're walking on with pretty much like 1 million skeletons used to be living, breathing people. This was some hardcore WoW shit. Like, this was back when orcs were genuinely scary in the lore. Another thing people may not know about Hellfire Peninsula is that in vanilla WoW game files there was actually Hellfire Peninsula, but it looked very different to how it came in the actual release of TBC. Now, you can see from the pictures on screen here, this beta version of Hellfire Peninsula just looks absolutely nowhere near as good as the actual release. So although people kind of data mined and leaked Hellfire Peninsula, it really didn't do it justice compared to how cool this zone actually became. So an interesting feature with Hellfire Peninsula is that obviously there are both Horde and Alliance flooding into the zone during the launch. What ended up happening is that they had these separate areas for questing for both the Horde and Alliance. What makes it very interesting is that there's a natural border separating the Horde and Alliance down the Path of Glory, because there's this massive wall of NPCs that you have to fight to get to the other side where the faction would be questing. It's kind of like a soft border to the zone. One cool detail I want to highlight is this medieval tank. This is like an Alliance contraption, which essentially is like the prototype for a tank, but it's like this giant cannon with a guard tower on top of it. I don't know, I just find this really cool looking. One of the more infamous aspects of Hellfire Peninsula is the Fell Reaver. This is a roaming monster that is way stronger than the level that you would encounter it. And obviously this has been done before in vanilla WoW, but never like this. The interesting thing with the Fell Reaver is that you can hear it, and you can also see it as your screen shakes when it starts walking. It's so big, the screen vibrates when it's walking around, and it walks deceptively fast. So when you're leveling up in Hellfire Peninsula, you'd see your screen shake and you need to get the hell out of there ASAP. It really takes the dangerous roaming mob mechanic that you had in vanilla WoW and just amplifies it. So a big change in TBC is that quests became local. If you get a quest, the quest objective where you have to pick up something or fight a certain mob is probably going to be very nearby, in the same zone that you're in. This may not sound like a big deal, but back in Vanilla WoW, I'm sure you guys can remember, there are so many quests where you pick it up in one zone and then you have to kill things in another zone, and then fly back and hand it into some guy in a different continent. The amount of obscure quest lines in Vanilla WoW that have you travel all over the place really can't be overstated. For this reason, I think having a quest guide telling you exactly where to go and which NPCs to talk to is really helpful. Having an add-on like Zygor Guides telling you where all the obscure, weird quests that you probably would miss if you didn't have a guide is kind of a big deal, especially in Season of Discovery with how cryptic some of the rune quests are. I highly recommend you guys get Zygor Guides. You can get it for 20% off if you click the link in the description below and use code VOLTY. You got to admit, that was quite a smooth plug. Another feature that was new to the Burning Crusade are these underground mobs. You have these mobs that are tunneling around, and if you go near the area, they sprout up out of the ground and attack. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but part of the design philosophy with TBC zones is this concept of it being 3D. Although this is obviously just an illusion and, you know, the mob isn't really underground, it's quite a neat addition for 2007. One of the more iconic scenes in TBC is the skeleton of a pit lord called Aganar. It's like he's so evil, he's like corrupting the land around it. And even long after dying and his remains being there for untold years, there's still like this fell energy emanating out of it. And even his blood, his like green tainted blood, has came to life in the form of these NPCs. Now, an interesting sight and cool questline is that you encounter these enslaved broken with these slave master terror fiends. There's a questline you get from this broken to try and free these slaves and combat the demons so you can actually liberate them. And during this questline, Naladu is talking about how they were betrayed and like there was a traitor amongst them. But it's only after you complete the questline that Naladu reveals that he was the traitor and betrayed his own kind for wealth and power from the demons, and he basically deceived you to help his goal of relieving his conscience. However, even after doing this, Naladu acknowledges that his sins cannot be properly atoned for, and he volunteers himself to exile, where he will never talk to his broken compatriots again. Like, damn, that's some hardcore Warcraft. One of the key features of Hellfire Peninsula is that it seems like reality is breaking down, and you get to see evidence of this throughout the environment, that things are not just taken over by villains, but it's like the environment itself is beyond belief. It really aids into this feeling that you are a stranger in this strange land that you can't possibly completely save. Another really cool aspect of Hellfire Peninsula is that there's this hidden zone, or not really hidden, but if you have a flying mount you can access this plateau where there is this whole other part of Hellfire Peninsula with max level enemies, and also a world boss that occasionally spawns. Again, this is part of Blizzard's vertical game design that came during TBC. But in any case, if you guys enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy my video going over Booty Bay in Classic WoW.